Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So, more than 20,000 professionals went to Black Hat 2024 this year, the who's who of cybersecurity, hacking, and prevention. So, let's get two professionals' thoughts on this. So, Mel Reyes, everyone's favorite cyber spokesperson, as well as Shaun Walsh, Chief Marketing Officer at Peak Nano. Hi, Mel and Shaun, how are you?
We're good. Good. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you
Well,
for
for
being
coverage.
here. So, Mel, let's start with you. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So I am a recovering CISO and CIO, doing a lot of executive leadership work these days, and decided to put myself through the ringer of 8 days at Black Hat B-Sides and DEF CON.
Perfect.
Did that help in the
Shaun,
recovery, CISO role? Did that help in the
What
recovery?
I was recovering up, now I'm re-recovering after last week.
Sorry, Ashley, go for it.
no, go ahead. Okay, Shaun, what about you? Can you tell the audience about yourself?
Sure. Like most folks in this world, I'll use Mel's term. I'm a recovering engineer, and throughout my career, obviously moved into marketing, hence the title. Although this year is an interesting year for me from a perspective of Black Hat. Most of my previous Black Hat experience has been with a vendor as a vendor going to the show. This year, it's the first time I'm looking at the show through the lens of a customer. Uh, the company that I'm working with is developing a new AI platform, a new AI design platform, and now I have to start thinking like a CISO, going, who has access control? How am I protecting the customer's data? I have their IP residing on my system. What happens if that gets out? So it's been a bit of a role reversal for me this year.
Yeah, and Sean, I know what you're up to. So, and watching international hackers a little bit, eh?
Yes, very much so. Very much
Just,
so.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
obviously, now that we're doing some work in the military space, it changes your perspective a great deal.
And Mel, what is Black Hat and who goes and why do they go?
You're asking the wrong questions right up front. So, okay. The experiences that I've had with Black Hat, honestly, have been more around the VC, PE, a lot of more of the grassroots pieces. But then you see mid to senior level folks who just go there for swag and then you have the other folks who go for the training, right? So you've got like these three, maybe four buckets of folks who show up. Then you have folks like me who just love to do it all. I think this year I came out with the least amount of swag, and it was a chapstick because my lips were chapped. I didn't take anything else off the floor. But there's a lot of different audiences, right? There's the audiences that are the vendors who actually just want to give back and pull the community together. There's different communities, and I love the CISO Society and a bunch of others that kind of pulled folks together. But there's a ton of wheeling and dealing there too, right? So just about every hotel has a breakfast, lunch, and or dinner where they're trying to pull together investors. They're trying to look at the next opportunities for investments. And then you get the big players who really want to kind of showcase what they're doing. Underneath all that is people who actually want to learn, right? People who actually show up to learn from the experiences and from the different speeches. But I'll have to say, Black Hat is cute. But when you're talking about grassroots and you're talking about the real people getting the work done, B-sides and DEF CON all day long. I mean, that's the tribe. That's who you get in there I stand out like a sore thumb when I show up in suits or shorts or whatever the hell I show up in. But I'm like, that's where I came from, right? I was that guy, right? That nobody wants to talk to. I believe it or not, I know this is going to sound odd. I was an introvert, crazy talk, right? But when I showed up at DEF CON, I was like, damn, I'm like, I may just bypass Black Hat altogether next year because that's the vibe. They're 24 hours. I mean, the 48-hour hacks, everything else is just incredible. So when you're showing up, the Black Hat audience is great for a lot of different things. I just decided to do those live interviews and everything else with Shannon Noonan because I wanted to highlight leadership. But that's where everybody congregates.
Hey,
Is
Mel,
really
can you give a
in
little
Vegas that week.
history there? And I know you know it, of Black Hat, DEF CON, that kind of stuff. How they came about, and then why they're diverging.
I'll defer to Shaun on this one because I think
Okay,
he may have better stories than I would.
Shaun, you want to take that one? Because I know you know that story.
Yeah, I think when you look at the history of it, it all boils down to marketing people ruined Black Hat.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's what I'm going to get you to. Yeah,
and I can say that as a marketing person. Um,
yes,
but basically, when Black Hat started, it really was what DEF CON is today. It was a group of ethical hackers who got together. They would talk about the weaknesses, the risks, the things that society really don't understand, both to our national security and to our commercial security. Then you could, to Mel's point, you always knew who was there from the three-letter agencies recruiting because they were the only ones in suits, and then that started to drive the vendors there because they were like, okay, if these are the folks that are driving things and we have big government contractors there, excuse me, then that is when marketing people ruined Black Hat. As an offshoot of that, they invented DEF CON, and DEF CON is the real genesis and history of what Black Hat is. In many ways, Black Hat has become I will say the second tier to RSA in terms of size of show.
right.
So, RSA is the show you go to when you're looking for VCs, when you're looking for distributors, you're looking for channel partners. It's the business side of it. Black Hat is the in between. It's kind of got a foot in both areas. But if you really want to learn about what's happening in security, go to DEF CON.
Well
So,
done.
Shaun, you've been going to Black Hat for years. So, what was the big issue that you saw this year?
I think the biggest issue is that 3 years ago, it was every company said they had AI. Now it's every company is trying to tell you how to fight AI. And regardless of your perspective about AI being good or bad, the simple Pandora's box truth is the box is open. The hackers are using this to attack faster and to create more variants of attacks. And it is doing it at a scale and a speed that you must have automation to combat. And I think the biggest difference I saw this year in terms of the announcements and the new products had to deal with the acknowledgement that the battle we're fighting has shifted. I think that if you look at the war in Ukraine, we have seen the first war of drones. It is the first war in which drones are the most strategic weapon beyond the human beings. And that's, to me, was my big takeaway from all the announcements is it wasn't AI for marketing's sake. It was AI for combating the threat actors' sake. And that, to me, was a very profound change in how people were looking at things.
And Mel, what was your big event at Black Hat? And can you also talk about DEF CON?
Yeah. So, honestly, the most impactful conversations that I got into were after hours. I mean, I'll be honest, right? Most of the conversations during the day were great because we had great leaders that were presenting on the things that I actually wanted to talk about versus going to the actual presentations, right? I was pulling in folks for impromptus. So it was really good to have everybody there, number one, but also the after hours conversations Greg Anderson on burnout, with Deidre and Peter from Cyber, Deidre from Cyber Ascent and Peter from Cyber Minds, Mind Over Matter with the, Mind Over Cyber. Those are the conversations that I think, to me, need to be elevated more in this realm, but also just really Nelson over at CVIT, all of these different groups that I normally get to work with, here in the West Coast or otherwise, but to be there and to get into the kind of conversations, what are you doing? What's going on? That was the most important piece for me. Great conversations that were had, on stage, and, all the glitz and glam and the educational portion of it, the weekend before. But for me, it really is about those real world conversations that are had during lunch and dinner, sometimes breakfast if you can make it, right? Like the Mind Over Cyber. Who in their right mind would think that at RSA and at Black Hat you would be at a 6, 7, or whatever, I think it was 7 or 8 in the morning meditation session, right? That's kind of key to me, right? That's important to me. But guess what? It's there, and there's a lot of other conversations that are happening to make the experience really genuine. So, my whole, George and Carlos and those folks running these things are just as beneficial as all of the industry knowledge that I could have gained from any of the other conversations.
I'll have to go on tap. So what were some of those conversations mind stretching around standard cyber, blah, blah, blah. We need better sims. Yeah.
So on the one side, there were a couple of conversations on reducing the noise, right? So up front, how do you reduce the noise of the volume of information you're getting, right? The resiliency component, I won't say the full name, but CS came into a couple of conversations. But in reality, it was just, how do you manage, how does a CISO practitioner become a CISO leader? How do they help with their team burnout? How do we work through some of the things that we need to do to level the teams up? Those were top of mind conversations. Now, I'm a little biased because that's what my focus is now, but those are the conversations that I didn't even have to start. People were asking me, right? Hey, how are you dealing with this? Well, hey, what should I do with this? Or a lot of folks that I talked to throughout the week really were in, am I doing the best job scenario? And this is cross-functional, right? So this is from mid to senior level, but not even just CISOs, right? Am I doing a job? Am I doing enough? So there's a lot of conversations that can be had at Black Hat, which I absolutely thoroughly loved watching from a sober standpoint, as everybody was doing what they needed to do.
And I got a selfish question, Mel. I really do. Because, hopefully there's other vendors on this call. And Shaun, you said it yourself. You've always been a vendor. Okay.
Yep.
So in your after hours, and it's good to talk to you, Mel, because you are, you're a recovering CISO, so they trust you, that they can you've done this, you've been in their shoes. What is the general perspective? And have you seen a change in these, people who are actually doing it, a suspicion, trust, etc., of us, the vendors, and our messages and what we're giving to them about to solve cybersecurity?
Oh, shit, you're doing it again, Garrett. You're doing it again.
I know. I know it's a loaded question, etc., but yeah.
Okay. So there are a lot of vendors that are doing it right for me, right? They're doing it right for others. They're doing it right in the sense of listening, number one, right? What's the problem that you have? And then saying, well, I can't solve that problem, but I know who can. Then you have the vendors who are just knocking down your door. They want to get a POC. They want to get on, talking to your other senior leaders. And the tactics that they're using pre and post, right? I don't drink, right? Stop inviting me to the bourbon and whiskey, pieces. I get it. You want to drop a lot of money on some of the most influential folks that can make or break your life and your career. There were a lot of stupid decisions that were made as well on props that were used. I won't even get into that bullshit. Right. I mean, like, I honestly, the decisions that are being made are like whatever bong somebody was hitting when they decided to order those fucking lamps, excuse my language, and everything else. Like, it's just insane, right? So how about a little bit of level setting and actually give back something, right? Actually get into the conversations with Cyversity, get into the conversations with Cyber Minds, and actually pull those kind of things that'll actually help people as a vendor. I love socks, and I know some people love socks, and I love swag, but really, how about you give me
Socks.
something
I
that
was
I can
wondering,
actually use?
SOCKS. Okay, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yes, 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 yes. Yes. I don't love I don't love socks with an X, and I don't love
That's what I
sock
was
with
like.
just a
Anyone
C.
like
Yeah.
socks? And I should have mentioned
Swag.
Shaun
Right.
was sick today, so we could have come
Right.
on when I think socks. And Shaun
Right.
gracefully jumped in. But yes, that's what made me think of
Right.
socks.
And I know Karina loves both. It's just, that's why I punt things over to her.
So, and I'm sorry to summarize. Do you think the suspicion or the lack of trust is up or down with people, the
Oh,
CISOs, whatever, of vendors?
it's down.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't think I saw I did not, I don't think I saw a CISO on the floor. What I
Wow.
did see was a lot of VPs, senior VP. I mean, anybody who's holding 3 or 4 swag bags is not a CISO, right? I'm just saying, right? It just, come on, let's be real, right? So your target market, yes, you can infiltrate by hitting all of the teams that are looking for these kind of tools. Love it. People will learn from it. I get it. There was one group that highlighted what they were giving back, right? What they were doing, what they were teaching. I love that, right? During those sessions, not just, talking about their product. So it's really for me more about those breakout sessions in the perimeter of where most of the dollars are spent. But the vendors really just need to kind of show up and do more of what the teams need, but the company needs, and a lot more listening. So individual breakouts, mastermind sessions, something different that needs to happen there. I don't need, I'll tell you right now, RSA, sorry for whoever this was. I don't need to take a photo with a Tom Cruise lookalike. Right. I'm like, really? Really? That's cute, right? But it's those kind of things where I'm like, think different next time. Hire me and I'll help you think different.
Hey,
Selfish. Sorry.
that's why you're on here. Take it away. That's what.
Sorry.
Here, I'd like to build on that for a couple of things. 'Cause
Perfect. Yeah.
there's two things that I think have fundamentally changed in the perspective of CISOs and what they're looking for out of this. We now have an entire profession that has a new legal liability and risk to their family, to their personal freedom, to their livelihood. Everyone on the board of directors has D&O insurance. They don't have CISO insurance.
Wow. That's heavy.
And the risk that CISOs now take in their job is remarkably different than it was before the SolarWinds and the Uber issues and those sorts of things. And I think that if there's one thing that vendors are missing, it's that particular perspective. Is that these guys are now not just thinking about how do I protect my business? How do I set my priorities on my strategy? But it's how do I protect myself and my family as well? And it's if there's one thing that I've seen that's very different in the conversations, it's a lot of stuff around that. And the other thing that has struck me in terms of fundamental changes in the industry related to that is the fact that when we as vendors are talking to customers, which I'm kind of wearing both hats in this conversation. But we have a tendency to treat our information like something customers have to earn the right to learn, as opposed to getting it out there right away. I have seen so many companies afraid to tell people exactly what they do and don't do for fear of losing a deal or for fear of feeding their competitors weapons. And I think as an industry, one of the things that we have to do is get comfortable with who we are and what we do. Because we're not just asking people to use our products, we're asking people to put their freedom on the line by choosing to use our products. And that is a world of different responsibility. And I think it's something that our industry needs to think a bit more about, in terms of there are ramifications beyond, you know, hey, I got stranded from my flight versus I'm going to go to prison. And that, to me, if there's any one big thing that I think is shifted, that would be the other piece.
So, Shaun, are vendors missing the personal professional liability message to the CISOs?
It depends upon where you are in it. What I've noticed are the people who do threat hunting, the Red Canaries, the Google Mandiants, you know, some of these other folks that are in the battle with the CISO, I think have a much better perspective of that. I think as a tool vendor, it's very difficult. And the description that I use to people is, you know, we were chatting about, you know, I do CrossFit and other sorts of things. While I look like Shrek, I love to work out. My problem is I still eat really bad. But, you know, and I told my coach that. He goes, you know, Shaun, why are you here? I said, to burn enough calories so I can keep eating more. Nice. Not exactly the health message he was looking for. But if you walk into an LA Fitness, a 24-hour fitness, there are 500 machines you can choose to use. And most of them will hurt you more than they'll help you. And I think that that is the one big dimension from the vendor side that needs to change, is you can't just produce the equipment and the tool. You have to produce the wisdom of how and why to use that tool. And I think that's the operational part that vendors need to embrace as we go forward.
So, Mel, same question to you. Do you think the vendors should be addressing personal professional liability for the CISOs?
What else I could say that Shaun just dropped just dropped the mic. That was beautiful.
I would agree. That just blew me away. Yeah.
That, like, the whole analogy, like you walk into a gym, right? Yeah, there's 80 machines I could use in the gym that I'm at, but I don't know how to use them all, right? And wow. I say this when whether I'm doing startup advisory, whether I'm coaching or otherwise, I've said it for decades. Like, stop trying to sell me your product, build a relationship. Let's build trust. Are you solving my problem? And then we can get into bed, right? Like it's just there's this constant churn where we need a POC, we need dollars, we need a commitment, letter, memo. Like, no, that's not how this works. This isn't a dating app, and I won't throw out the names of the dating apps, right? Right. Like, how about you buy me a cup of coffee and we talk and I get to learn and build a level of trust so I can see who you are, what you deliver, so that see if there's a fit first, right? Because you don't even know what problem I have. So how do I know that you're the solution? Number one. And then number two, from a vendor standpoint, just like Shaun mentioned, you may have an offering and there's things you do and don't do. Tell me what you don't do Stop wasting my time. Don't put me in a funnel. Give me the damn PDF. Like, just stop, right? Build a relationship, right? And no one wants to do that because that's a long tail piece and they want immediate hits and they've got, numbers that they have. That's cute. But guess what? I don't need that as a CISO, as a CIO, as a practitioner, or otherwise, right? I'm not going to buy something I don't know, right? I'm not even going to get into a conversation if that's your immediate angle. Download this PDF. And I'm like, I'll download that PDF and I'll unsubscribe the second you send me something, right? Because I want to see what's in that PDF, see how good you are, what numbers you've come up with, or what, numbers you've made up. Sorry. Anyway, so the whole industry needs to change into being a value to the CISO, right? Get me, I tell you what, every vendor that knows me for the last 20, 30 years, sponsor a mastermind session. One session a month, right? I'll run them. I'll have you in there. I'm running one in October, right? Guess what?
Mel,
Now you're giving back.
flesh that out? What exactly do you mean by that? A mastermind
Napoleon
session.
Hill standard mastermind sessions, right? 5 to 10 people in a cohort talking about the issues that they're having, right? It could be at a dinner, it could be at a regular meeting, it could be anything like that, right? That's value, because then you're actually listening to the people who are having an issue, right? And then seeing whether or not there might be a tangential 1% hit on, hey, we might be able to help you with that, but not with our tool. How about we get you with our partner who might do that? This is the vendor saying that, not me, right? That's the kind of value you want to add, because then I'm going to go back and I'm going to remember you, Garrett. I'm like, Garrett made that recommendation. He said, I should use Bob's, account temps, and it turned out to be fantastic. Garrett is a great guy. I better, when anything comes up with you, it's us. I better remember him, right? It just happens naturally, right? The go-giver, all these other concepts. I'm going to remember you for the value brought to me, the laws of I always get it. Somebody help me out here.
Represent.
Being video. Hold on, I'll figure it out. I always get it like wrong, but when you give and then you'll actually receive.
Reciprocity.
Thank you, reciprocity. I always drop that damn S. So and of course this is live.
Yeah, I wouldn't even try that
figure, right? But if you do it from a genuine place, right, where you really want to help somebody, who cares what comes back, right? And that's the kind of stuff, and that's the kind of relationship you need to build as a salesperson, as a marketing person, as a company, right? I get you do great shit, but guess what? I don't need you right now.
Yeah.
And Garrett,
Sorry.
so who do you see who do you see stepping on the solving the problem for the customer?
Yeah, I know. First of all, Mel, great idea. We'll definitely talk online on your my master. I definitely see what Mel is saying, and this is a good discussion for me because when we started this, Ashley, it's real straightforward. Hey, you got to do user access reviews for blah 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 compliance. Okay, all that, right? Now that we're working with a lot more partners and I was just meeting with one yesterday, and he's real big on the concept of using this tool for what he calls as an identity pen test, which is after the hack, after a merger, after a change, after a new CISO comes in, right? And he's like, I don't know who we have access to, using the tool there. And what I'm saying is that wasn't my idea. That was their idea. That was them listening to the solution and then saying, Garrett, that's cool. Yeah, I get it. Regular access reviews are required by SOX, by HIPAA, by HITRUST. But what was going on is after the breach, I got to figure out who has this. I just took over this department. I got to figure out who has access, blah, blah, blah. And that was their idea. So I definitely see, and I'm a vendor, and I probably always will be a vendor because that's just what I do. I like to create solutions, right? And I listen to Mel talk and Shaun talk. It's good for me to hear and to see us saying, yeah, I mean, we, guilty as charged. It's easy to just go use my tool. Everything will be, solved or whatever. But in the forums that Mel's discussing, coming in and actually listening and, two ears, one mouth type thing is probably, a good approach.
Yep.
And Mel, I want to direct the same question to you. So who do you see stepping on problem solving for the customer?
Wait, me or Shaun? Sorry.
Yeah, I would start with Mel, but then go to Shaun. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. What was I'm on my third or fourth cup of coffee. Work with
It's basically
what was the question?
industry you see actually, if the vendors are just saying my product, who do you see stepping up, right? And saying,
All
okay,
right. I I don't want to drop names, but individual folks that I know from vendors are the ones who are really stepping up, right? They're sales folks, the folks who are doing learning and development, or any of the customer onboarding pieces, right? So if you don't have a customer experience person who's out there at the Black Hats or the B-sides or the DEF cons, get them out there, right? Don't I that's cute that you can get your top CISO or your top, but no, get into real world conversations. Have your customer experience people teach your salespeople what needs to be done in order to build a relationship. That's one. Two, I'm gonna drop it here. One of the groups that I'm actually do a bit of work here with in LA is absolutely doing it right, and it's the Cyber Risk Alliance and Cyber Risk Collaborative, right? The dinners they have, the conferences they have, the infosec pieces they have, hands down, some of the best information that I've been able to gather and collect during one session in a dinner, right? 5, 6 kind of mastermind cohort type of scenarios in a room full of 30 other industry leaders. Absolutely spot on, right? That's the kind of mindset you want to continue to foster is I'm going to tell you in 1 minute what my product does, but I'm going to listen for the next 59, right? That's the mindset that every vendor needs to be in. And that's the most important thing to me.
And Garrett, so taking it back to Black Hat, so CSO magazine on what are the big items at Black Hat were. So what did CSO say?
Yeah, first of all, that was a great discussion, guys. Basically, they said cloud security under scrutiny, which almost is obvious because what are we? We're all cloud now. The one that we were riffing on before in this, that the CrowdStrike meltdown, and their take was emphasizes cyber resiliency. I think I would put it as we were discussing earlier. I think it emphasizes management, is that cybersecurity is a management problem, and they, for better for worse, handle it. Patching is no panacea. I think that's kind of funny given that CrowdStrike just bought a $1 billion patching thing, so they're certainly not the panacea, but I think is relevant. What Shaun started with, number 4, the point was AI is a double-edged sword, and then what Shaun and Mel were riffing on, CISOs face personal jeopardy from corporate breaches. Of that list, to me, I think the most relevant is the fifth. Is that, and I'm taking away from this conversation, whatever, is because we're all, after all, and I'm the worst to remember this, just humans doing these jobs, you know? And if we as vendors don't acknowledge that either we're helping, and actually, I always use a certain word for a CISO because he's my favorite guy, the guy that was at Secure. If we're not helping the Kellys of the world, the actual CISOs, not only do their job, but to stay safer, they don't get arrested or blah, 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 or have to do with legal trouble, then we as vendors do our job. So I thought that was relevant. I'll let you actually
And
ask the other. Yeah.
and Mel, from the CSO list, so what did you see as the most prevalent or memorable?
The safety, right? Number one, as a CISO, I like to sleep, right? So I'd like a little bit of security and a little bit of integrity and a little bit of trust in the systems we put in place, in how we train our folks to respond, the fact that we're giving them enough time to practice the recoveries, right? To go through the table topics. All of these topics are the ones that help me. Now, vendors that can help address some of these, reduce the noise, reduce the pieces, and give me the edge that I need from a personal jeopardy standpoint and a corporate standpoint, because the rest of them can be solved either through technology or process or everything else, right? The cloud security under scrutiny. It's is that something new, right? No, it's a new
That's
angle to it with AI and the speed
yeah.
of how to address them. Cute, right? The meltdown. I have to say, and I know we riffed on this before. I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to walk you through why I ended up on number 5. The meltdown, the CS meltdown. I won't say it. Mad props, and I said this before we got on. Mad props to the executives for accepting the epic fail award in person. In person. That's that to me is you're wearing it, and obviously $1 billion that you can throw around for a patch company doesn't hurt either. The patching, the AI double-edged sword, absolutely. But at the end of the day, all of that is moot if you're context switching your CISO every 3, 6, 9 months, and you're not getting the cultural change that you need, the psychological safety, leveling your teams up, making sure you have the right tools. It's for nothing, right? Because all you're doing is you're building a PTSD level of first responder toxicity that is not sustainable. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
And Shaun, anything from the CSO list stick out to you?
Yeah, I think the one thing that stood out to me was, why is cloud security under a degree of scrutiny that's different now than before? And I think that we sometimes take for granted that we're all going to use SaaS platforms, we're all going to do other sorts of things. But whether you like it or not, you are now getting into a partnership with people you don't know, people who have different policy requirements, people who have different security requirements that may not be fully aligned with yours. So when you pick a SaaS platform, you're not just controlling the identity access that UATest looks at. Now you have to understand that you are getting into security partnership with that SaaS platform company. That SaaS platform company is probably hosted on one of the big 3 cloud vendors. And now you have 2 more degrees of security risk that you have no control over the policies, the equipment, the settings, or the behaviors behind those platforms. And when you look at the fact that Wiz turned down $32 billion from Google, they didn't do it because it was a bad offer. They did it because they figure they can get 300 billion later. And they're probably not wrong. So the combination of now having to manage your own security, your SaaS partner's security, and their cloud vendor's security, it creates a much more complicated Rubik's Cube to solve.
And Mel, so AI is now the talk of cyber, where all the vendors are spinning AI as a cyber defense. Did that pique your interest at all?
I'd be an idiot to say no, right? Number one, right? Because like I said last year, if a company is not looking at from a product standpoint, I don't care what company you are, Campbell, I don't care who you are, right? It could be cybersecurity, it could be a vendor. If you're not looking at bringing in AI, I said this last year, into your org, it in 3 to 5 years, you will be gone. You will be gone, right? Because there are going to be so many advancements that are going to be made in marketing, in sales, in IT, in security. That's one. Number 2, flip it to the back end. Yeah, guess what? AI is coming out with better everything from an attack standpoint, right? So you better be on top. And that, people are like, Mel, why do you talk to so many vendors? I'm like, because I want to know what they're up to. I want to know what their latest features are. I want to know whether or not there's a feature that I'm currently not using, but also I also get into, what are you pushing out next quarter? What are you pushing out the quarter after that? Because I need to stay ahead, right? So if you're not deep in with all your existing vendor, or looking at how to replace or how to get more visibility into how AI is going to hit you on both ends, add value on the security side so you can bring stuff in-house, but also how do we leverage it to reduce the noise, attacks, and everything else, you're absolutely going to miss out on the most revolutionary thing that has happened to technology in the longest time.
And Shaun, so while we're geeking out, so what about zero trust? Garrett and you have talked a little about the vendors and zero trust promotion from last year. Did you see much promotion discussion on zero trust this year? Anything that made sense, or was it just marketing speak?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't marketing speak. It really had to do with if to me it all starts with the government mandates. The fact that the DoD, CISA, and a bunch of other folks have said, "Hey, we're going zero trust." What happens? Vendors respond because they want to be able to check all those boxes, and it started a momentum that has gotten people looking at that principle in a different way. Again, no matter what you do in life, when you look at problems, it's a question of perspective. Have a friend of mine who's an MSP, and one of the things that I love about talking to MSPs is that they are the DIY fixer-uppers of the cyber world. They inherit whatever you got, they inherit the new rules, and then they try and transition you and remodel your house. And they understand things at a much, much different level because they understand that just because there's a mandate for zero trust, you don't have all the tools. You can do one ring of security, then the second ring of security, then the third ring of security, then your edge devices. So I saw material improvement in the zero trust architecture principles. I'm seeing vendors respond because they have to do it ultimately to sell to the feds, and their biggest customers who in turn sell to the feds require that they prove zero trust. Now, we're talking about a 3 to 4 year process. This is not going to happen overnight, but definitely material progress was made. You could see it in announcements from customers who were, or from vendors who were there. And just as I saw with other standards throughout time, this ripple effect is happening. And the other big difference in this is the edge. Is that because the edge has so little computing infrastructure and has so little ability to put security into devices, that the principle of zero trust makes sense at an intellectual level. It makes sense at an operational level. And then you combine that with a federal mandate, and we're seeing that migration start. Now, we're in year one of a 4 or 5 year transition, but definitely material progress.
And Garrett, what are your thoughts on AI and zero trust in cyber and GRC products?
I think this is a great question. I think they're related. I mean, absolutely. We had from the and I like Shaun, where you took that the government not only mandating but also helping. I mean, I know we're all in private industry. Our government sucks. They blah 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 blah. Actually, we had and I sorry, I've just talked like that. We all read NIST and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think all of us are all aware, especially the vendors, are aware of the other side of the government, which is the CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. I met one of them at a show. He's an evangelist. And the CISA is supposed to be taking stuff from this and taking the stuff from the other groups and then packaging it in a way that us in the industry can use. Okay? So we're going to bring things together. And what they did is they took AI, which they call intelligence, and they put their zero trust and then created, the 800, 200, they took the 800, 207 from our friends over at the NIST and then turned it into action plans. Okay? And this is what Shaun's saying. Shaun's saying that, hey, us as vendors, us in the world have to, give steps. And what the CISA said, and we had Don Hester on this program, the Audit Tuesday, said there's 4 steps to your zero trust journey. Traditional, initial, advanced, and optimal. Okay? And the traditional is how we're doing business now. And it'll just run around choosing this vendor, choosing that, all manual processes. It says in the initial state of zero trust, we should start automating. And Shaun started with that and Mel did a little too, that we should start automating these processes. In the advanced state, right, which a lot of them people have get ready at the initial state of zero trust, but the advanced state is we start pulling in intelligence. They write it, but it's intelligence, which is AI, which is real pulling information, coming up with scores, coming up with predictive analysis, and then those individual products start acting on that intelligence without always needing a human. That's the advanced state. And others can interpret optimal differently, but I don't. I read it very succinctly in had conversations. To me, the optimal state is when the products start working together, that the intelligence of this product is passed over to that product and it's recognized. And you're nodding your head, Shaun, because I remember I was bringing this up at a company we worked together with, and I won't say it or whatever. And the person looked at me and said, why would I want to work with the other products? And I was kind of pulled out my hair that I had more then, right? That's what we as vendors have to do. We have to work with each other's products, and that's literally what the CISA Zero Trust Maturity Model is telling us, ZTMM, okay? And by the way, this company that we've traded here, Ashley and I, we're doing that. We took automation is the entire product. That's the initial step. We added intelligence at real time for the advanced, and we're looking for vendors to take our AI and to take our AI, we call it identity trust scores, and to imbibe it in their enforcement points so they can enforce. We're not an enforcement tool. That's the way I see the AI and the zero trust, and to acknowledge, I do believe vendors they have this in mind that we're being under attack, that we do have AI and we have to work together. So I'm seeing more and more of that. And you guys, well, you can go on top of that if you want.
No, that's it. You're dropping it like it's hot, both of you. So I can just repeat exactly what you two just said. We got to do better.
There you go. That's the kombucha in the morning. There you go. All good. I hate this stuff. Okay, take it away, Ashley. I think we're going to do some questions.
Yep. So first question for Mel. So did anyone discuss all the breaches taking place? So while we believe our defensive tools are getting better and better, breaches are at an unprecedented level.
Nothing specific, just the stresses of having to be in that constant battle, right? They most of the folks that I talked to when the conversation came up were, first of all, they were at Black Hat, right? So they weren't under attack. There was actually one guest that was in the middle of an incident call, right? But it was a low level tier. It wasn't anything that they were dealing with, but everyone was at Black Hat. So not everybody's under attack all the time. I get it. Or their teams are manageable, or they've gotten to a point where they actually can break away and their teams can handle what's there. The specifics were, and I think Karina had mentioned it in the comments on the vendor risk management. We just talked about that, right? You can secure the living crap out of your system and think you can go to sleep, but guess what? Every one of those vendors that you're working with and where they store their data and all these other wonderful conversations that come up with compliance and security are the ones you also have to worry about. So yes, you got to do a little bit deeper dive into their systems and do all the right checks and balances. That conversation did come up, to Karina's point in the comments. But in reality, it was just more on just the got into a few conversations that just being able to break away, right? They almost couldn't make it because of XYZ that happened a week or two ago or 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago in their org. So I think there's a good chance that a lot of people didn't make it to Black Hat because they were in the middle of a hot mess, even if they booked everything.
Perfect. And Mel, can you tell the audience how we can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So Mel Reyes on LinkedIn or etc.limited is the website. I'm doing all kinds of wonderful things here in the LA community. So I'd love to meet in person, or just fly me out to wherever you are, Dubai or anywhere else, and I'll meet you there.
And Shaun, what about you? How can people get a hold of you?
On LinkedIn as well, and that's the fastest and easiest way to get me.
Awesome. And then us at UAtest, contact us at info@uatest.com and we'll execute on your identity governance and compliance needs. Thank you both for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. And thanks a lot, Ashley. Good stuff. Thanks, guys. All
Thank
the
you.
best.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.